Good afternoon, class. My name is Daniel Shaw, and today I'll be talking to you about the 6 main motivators seen throughout the world. These 6 things are incentives, fear, achievement, social, power, and um, growth. The first one and most commonly seen one throughout the world is incentives. Incentives can be monetary or non-monetary, meaning relating to money. People respond so well to incentives because it's like one of those things where you know you can get an additional reward for a job well done, so that's just enough of a motivator to a lot of people to do a job good. A common example of an incentive would be a job promotion or a bonus. These would obviously be examples of monetary incentives. A common example of a non-monetary incentive would be time off during the holidays, and to some people that's even more valuable than money itself. Next, we have fear. A lot of people think of fear as a bad thing. Fear is actually used by leaders to their advantage. Employees need something to fear, a consequence to inferior performance or bad behavior in the workplace in order to keep them doing the job right. A common example of fear in today's society is what we call FOMO, fear of missing out. Imagine your employees tell you on a Friday night they're going out for some drinks, and they ask you to tag along. You're exhausted after a long work week, but you decide to go anyway because you don't want them to make a big business decision without your input. Achievement motivation refers to our drive for competency. People who are achievement motivated strive when their company gives them regular performance evaluations. All people are driven to complete tasks and achieve goals, but some people need that extra pat on the back to do so. And honestly, that's all an achievement goal really is. It can be as simple as a pat on the back. If an achievement-oriented individual isn't getting that sometimes, they feel dissatisfied in their job. And a simple thank you may seem pointless to someone giving it, but to someone who's achievement-oriented, it really does go a longer way than that. Growth refers to our individual desire to grow as an individual. People want to better themselves and increase their knowledge of the outside world and themselves. We consider growth to be completely an internal need. An example of growth would be allowing your employee to have more decisions, have more say over their own decisions. So when an employer allows you to make a decision without having to go to a supervisor, he's allowing you to grow in the company and trust yourself more. Power can refer to 2 different things. It can refer to power of autonomy, meaning of your independence, or power over others. So when you say power over others, you refer to you wanting them to do exactly what you want and what you ask them to do. An example of a power motivator is climbing up the ranks of your company. When you gain influence in your company, you're gaining power. And when you gain power over people and over your own decisions, that's fulfilling your need for power motivation. Finally, we have social motivators. So, needing social motivation refers to the need for social acceptance. This could be acceptance from one person, from a group of individuals, or even acceptance from the entire world. Companies should feel obligated to ensure that their employees feel socially accepted, whether it be with them or with their coworkers. And a great way for a company to ensure that their employees feel that is by hosting outside of work hour events where employees can come and meet each other outside of the work environment. So motivation, all of these types of motivators are useful in many different places, but if used incorrectly, they can be counterproductive. They can actually make people demotivated and force employees to feel uncomfortable in work and not happy. As Keely touched on, every motivator is either intrinsic or extrinsic. Out of the 6 that we've talked about, only 2 of them are intrinsic, and these 2 are achievement motivation and growth. Achievement motivation is intrinsic because it's our individual desire to complete a task or a goal. And growth is our individual desire to grow as people and grow in our company. Extrinsic motivators are the following four. Incentives are physically given to you by an employer. Fear is instilled in you by your employer. Social acceptance is given to you from those around you. A big topic of discussion and motivation is millennials and how to keep them motivated to stay with you and your company. Obviously, a great way to do so is to give them more incentives, more money, more things that they want like that. But millennials are very different than a lot of other generations in the past. Millennials seek two other main things. They seek power over their own decisions and over their choices in the company. They want more freedom and social acceptance. They want more interaction with their coworkers, and they prefer to work in teams. Obviously, the best way to keep an employee happy is by making the job fun. People get tired of doing the same job over and over again every week, 40 hours a week. So keeping new and fresh ideas in the employment is a great way to keep your employees satisfied. There is no limit to what motivation can do for you and for your employees. And it can help keep your company and keep your employees happy and make them stay with you for a long time.
How you doing? I'm Jason. I'm going to talk about motivation in the workplace for a little bit. I'm going to touch on basically kind of what Dan was just talking about incentives first. Some workplaces have a lot of incentives, as in get to this goal, you get this amount, get to a certain sales, you'll get a day off, or whatever, like he said. But incentives are probably the biggest part of motivation in a workplace. Second is just kind of like a pat on the back for some workers. Some workers just like to hear good job or you're doing what you want. They don't really need the type of reward for what they're doing. They just like to see what they're doing is getting recognized by managers. But also, on the other hand, when they get recognized by managers, the goals kind of get increased, and they like to increase what they do on a regular basis. So getting the job done eventually will lead to a better raise and stuff like that for incentive-wise. Self-motivation is another big aspect to what I kind of look at as a motivator. Saying you can do something to get to a goal is kind of even more important than having someone behind you motivated. For example, if you tell yourself, I want to sell the most amount of a product in a year for your company, you're going to work as hard as you can to do that for yourself, not just for a bonus or anything like that, just for yourself to feel like you've completed the task that they're paying you for to get done. Implementation strategies is what I'm going to talk about next, how workplaces do this. A manager will set up something like a goal chart or something like that to have on the side of the board, where if I sell something, I get a star or something like that. In retail or anything, when you do what you're supposed to, you get a certain brick that goes along in what you're trying to do. That's a huge motivator for sales, basically. And other assets too, and other facets of companies too. That's how they do it. They motivate by incentivizing and giving steps along the way. Setting goals for yourself and like companies setting goals for you is a big way that, like I said before, they motivate. When goals are set across like a big firm, it might be on the bottom to the top. Managers have a certain amount of goals, and the lower people have an amount of goals to reach also. So, like I said, it's a list of things that people want to reach as they go along. Some ways where workplaces set the tone for motivation is a stricter amount of rules or a less strict amount of rules. So if you want people to kind of just go with the flow and get stuff done, a less strict amount rules-wise, like getting into work on exactly 9 to 5 or stuff like that. That leads to success where people don't want to be as hounded. In other ways, they want to have, in other workplaces, they have 9 to 5 jobs. You get there at 9 and leave at 5. Whatever job you're not done, you finish the next day. However it takes to get to where you've got to go, that's how the workplace wants it to be done. So that leads to success. Communication overall. Managers communicating with lower people on a weekly, daily basis, getting together, doing stuff like that, and communicating overall to what you want is a big part of motivation in a workplace from top to bottom. I just like the picture to the right there. It's just a motivator, like a manager kind of giving ideas to a lower person to get them to where they want to be, more productive, and people above you giving you ideas to what you want. It's not more just about, like, you have your own ideas, but you want it to go across also. A big way that managers have motivate all of their people at one time is one weekly meeting a week. From what I saw, from what I read a lot, there's a lot of, as in like a Monday morning, people get there an hour early for a weekly meeting. It's not the most fun, but they hear, I said team meetings also, they hear what they did wrong throughout the week or a month or whatever it is. They hear what they did wrong and what they have to improve on throughout the next week or next month to get over the top for the next period of time. A big way is handling people's mistakes. So that's what it says. How you handle mistakes in a workplace as a manager down to like an assistant or something like that really motivates someone. So if you make a mistake that's not as material as possible, it's not like, oh, you're going to get fired or something like that. You're not going to just, people are going to help you get past it and not make the mistake again. Like this, I mean, the guy, he's kind of going to hurt himself. People are going to help him, I guess. Like I said before, I mean, the rules in a workplace really make a big difference. From my personal experiences, like I work for a company that my dad actually owns, so I don't have a 9 to 5 or whatever it is. I can kind of do what I want. It makes me, I go to work every day and I do what I need to do. I don't have strict rules. I never worked at a workplace that has stuff like that. But I mean, climbing up the ladder to get to a goal is the ultimate goal of motivation, and that's the ultimate goal of every workplace, to get to the top and sell the most product.
Hey guys, how's it going? My name's Nick, and the part of motivation I'll be covering is motivational speaking. I'm going to be covering it from the past to the present. There's all different types of individuals who have made large contributions to what motivational speaking has gotten to today, so I'm just going to touch on all those individuals and their styles. Before I get to that, I'm just going to tell you the difference between life coaching and motivational speaking. Life coaching is basically more of a one-on-one thing where a coach comes to an individual who wants to be more successful, more motivated, whereas motivational speaking is usually to a group or a large mass of people for one specific thing. Like I said in the beginning, motivational speaking has a wide variety of individuals, anywhere from a public figure speaking to citizens, a celebrity speaking to a group of people, or someone often who came from a tragedy and overcame it and wants to speak out to people kind of to see how they can relate. So first up with the past, this is Winston Churchill. He served as the Prime Minister in Great Britain from 1940 to 1945. He was a very well-respected man, very charismatic. People saw him as a leader, and obviously with what I'm talking about, he was most well known for his motivational speaking. Now, what made his speeches so great and why people loved watching them was the way he delivered them. He was very charismatic and very confident and also welcoming at the same time, and very outgoing man. And he gave most of his speeches during World War II, so obviously we can imagine his people really took a liking to that. Martin Luther King, you guys all know he's most famous for the I Had a Dream speech. But in the background of all that, he gave countless talks and speeches to motivate people, whether it was in his church and other churches or in